On today's episode, Chloe and I talk about change, taking leaps into the unknown, and how to market your small business online. All that coming up. Hey, Chloe.
Hey, Raph.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. It's bloody warm in Melbourne. It's I'm quite enjoying it actually, but I'm guessing you're potentially not enjoying it quite as much.
Well, normally I'm not a hot temperature person. I prefer it when it's cold, but I've made a decision this year to just get over it and get a better attitude. I'm going to embrace the warm weather.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I think there's something exciting about warm weather. I feel like it, especially around this time of year in Australia, it feels like it signifies holidays and Christmas, and my birthday is Christmas Eve. So for me, it's always got that kind of, and I remember the couple of years I spent in England, and it was really weird for me having a cold Christmas. Like it just totally discombobulated me. It was like, what? Doesn't feel right. But yeah.
So what size kettlebell are you up to this year for the traditional Christmas birthday present?
Well, Raph, I've had to calm shit down, build shit back up, to be honest. So I think I'm still totally fine with my current kettlebells. But I did get back to the gym this week for the first time since the last big Melbourne lockdown, and it was joyous. It was joyous, and you know what? I feel so good. And what I really loved about it too, and I just love doing my own self-paced workouts at the gym, because I just love that I've got total autonomy over how many reps I do, you know, how many breaks I take. Like I'm not being serious about, you know, at the moment it's like I need to do this much to, you know, get gains and this and that. This was literally just about a re-entry into getting into the gym and getting moving and starting to load again. And I think I did really well, because the next day I just got some mild DOMs, but nothing like, sometimes I'll come out of it just like I can't walk for a couple of days. So I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, it feels great. It feels freaking great. So, and everyone who was there just seemed like they were feeling the same. Everyone's like, yeah, we're in the gym. We're allowed to be in here. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
So yeah, so it's really cool.
People are back at Pilates.
And all the things are happening. Yeah. But I guess, I've got some big news, which is most of our listeners have probably sort of seen it on, if you follow me on Instagram. But yes, by the time this episode airs, Raph, I'll no longer be co-host of Elephants, which is mildly devastating. And I've got a bit of a sick feeling in my stomach as I say that out loud, to be honest, TBH. But yeah, that's because I am stepping away from Breathe. But by a way, I think we just mean sideways, don't we? Like
we're still friends.
We're still, it's not like, oh, Breathe. It's like, yeah, here I am cheering. So it's very much sideways, and yeah, it's scary and exciting. And I'm going into I feel like, have you ever read about, Raph, the actual like process of how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, okay. So it's not cute like it is in, you know, something like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, you know, where he just like eats all the cakes and all the things, and he just kind of gets really big and full, and then he just kind of wraps himself up and goes to sleep, and he just wakes up as a butterfly. No. You turn into goo. So that please Google this, because I'm going to do a terrible job of explaining it. But basically all the cells get kind of changed up, and the caterpillar turns into effectively goo with still some eyeballs, etc. It's like a ferocious kind of reinvention. It's not pretty, it's not cute, and then comes out as a butterfly. And so I don't know.
Change back to stem cells.
Yeah, well, I have looked at it on a science page, but obviously I didn't absorb it enough to be able to teach it clearly. But basically, you turn to goo with eyeballs, and then you emerge. How's that, Raph? For me going out with a real nice evidence-based bang. Turn to goo with eyeballs, then you emerge as the butterfly, right? So my analogy that I'm using there, Raph, if you like, where she's going with this goo and eyeball story.
Who's the goo with the eyeballs in this analogy, Chloe?
I'm the goo with the eyeballs. I guess what I'm saying is each reinvention of ourselves and each, that next, and it was the same as when I went from teaching group classes to being a trainer from Breathe, and then went to being the training manager. And each time you step into and then learn to lecture, and each time you do that, it's like, there's it's hard again. It's not flow state. It's challenging. It's gooey with eyeballs.
Yeah.
So this is my analogy. I am re-entering. I feel like I've been the butterfly maybe. I don't know. Now I'm going back to goo, and it's this next time. I don't know if I've done this justice, but I guess what
if we can mix our
what
metaphors,
the hell, Chloe?
you've been a butterfly for sure. You've been an amazing butterfly. Maybe you've been a huge butterfly in a small pond, right? And now it's time for you to become a smaller butterfly in a bigger pond. So because you've outgrown the pond, maybe.
So you think I don't have to go back to goo with eyeballs?
I don't know. I'm getting confused on the metaphor now, but I guess what I'm thinking is that, this is a time, this kind of post-COVID. We're post-COVID. I don't know. We're post third wave. Pre-fourth wave.
What alphabet? What Greek alphabet letter are we up to now?
Yeah,
Omicron.
Yeah.
Omicron.
So
Omicron.
there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change for a lot of people at the moment. When I say at the moment, I mean this year, this at this period of history. In the Pilates industry, teachers, a lot of people are moving online, businesses are changing, the industry's changing. There's lots of change, and in our tiny corner of the world, that's been reflected. The more general change, and I guess one of my kind of core philosophies is that in every crisis there is opportunity. And in every, sort of as a corollary to that, in every goodbye, there's a hello to something else, so it's real sad for me that we're not going to be directly working together as often, although, we'll talk more about that in a minute. But, I'm really excited for what I've already seen you building. Your online classes and workshops that you're doing. I think there's a lot of that going on in the industry, and I think this is a fantastic opportunity, and I'm excited to see where you take it.
Thanks, Raph. I'm really excited too. I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm all the things. I want to usher you all into my online studio, please. Please come take a class with me. I feel like this is that opportunity now for all those people that were saying, hey, how do I get to do a class with you, Chloe? Well, I'm all yours now. You get to do a class with me all the time from anywhere around the world. So at the moment, I'm building out my ideal schedule, which also looks like, your ideal offering. What do my clients want from me? So I'm, putting out some questions about that, asking what they want, where they want, testing it. I tested a later time on a Thursday that didn't work. And then I put up a question and said, would you prefer a expedited lunchtime class? And just that was 100% yes. So I'm definitely going to be learning along the way. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm not going to, because if I start talking about how much I've gained from working with you, Raph and Breathe, I'm going to get really emotional, and it's going to ruin me being able to carry on through this podcast. So I'm trying not to go there, but just to everyone listening, know that, this decision was not in any way taken lightly, and working for Breathe and being mentored by Raph has been, without a doubt, the most pivotal education and career highlight in my life. And I come out of it as I feel like I'm I'm a skilled educator now. And I wasn't when I met you, Raph. You know, you took me on, you saw, I don't know, maybe you saw the goo in the eyeballs, and you, you helped me form them into the butterfly. That works, right? So thank you for recognizing the goo in the eyeballs. There we go. I'm going to leave it at that because otherwise I'm going to get emotional.
Well, you know what I'd like to talk about in today's conversation?
What?
Well, I'd like to talk about change and opportunity. You know, like, because I think this is pertinent because, like I said, I think there's a lot of change out there at the moment, and change is almost by definition like anxiety provoking. You know.
Beyond.
And at the same time can be like exciting and can open up, you know, possibilities and options that weren't there before if we embrace it.
So you would like to do that as our topic today?
Oh, I don't know. We started off talking about that, didn't we? So
the reason I'm saying that is because I prepared a totally different topic for today, but I'm totally fine with rolling with the punches if you would like to.
Yeah. Okay.
Change. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's a great thing to talk about because I think, yeah, as you said, so many people are going through it significantly at the moment. And it's funny when anyone asks me how I'm feeling at the moment after making such a, you know, everyone knows what a huge decision it is for me. They're like, how are you feeling? I'm like, it's a roller coaster. Like seriously, like one moment I feel like I'm like skipping down the street, like, you know, singing, or it feels, and I probably did skip a little the other day, you know, I was like, yeah, woo. And then the next minute it's like crippling in your gut. Like, shit. I'm out there. I'm on my own. I've got to make enough money to ensure that I'm paying my rent and paying my bills and feeding myself and the cats. And yeah, and it's been interesting, Raph, and I'd love to hear some of your suggestions on like how to kind of turn that from like how, I guess at some point that kind of anxiety and stuff is probably necessary to propel you forward. So you don't sit with, as my dad says, hubris. He's like, hubris will take you down. You don't want to be coming out going, oh yeah, I've got this. I'm, you know, like he's like that's not good. So is that kind of what you're thinking there?
Well, I think, I don't know. I think anxiety and excitement both have the same physiology. And I think we've talked about this before, but basically...
Interoception?
Yeah. Interoception.
Butterflies?
Yeah, right. So when, you know, the feeling that, like when you have an emotion like anxiety, like, you know, there's physiology that happens. Like you feel stuff, you know, a lot of us feel it in the tummy or, you know,
yeah,
other
it's
places.
kind of, it
right?
feels quite like almost tingly and sensory, doesn't it? For me, and I know it probably manifests differently for other people, but when I start to feel anxious, I can feel it. It feels like it's on my skin. Does that make sense? It's hard to, I don't know how to describe that more than it feels like this, yeah, in my gut but also tingling on my skin. And usually my cheeks go red too.
Oh, I'll bear that in mind about the cheeks. That's a good, never knew that about you.
Look to my cheeks.
Yeah, so I think, well, anxiety and excitement share the same physiology. And so to a certain extent, it seems like how you interpret that physiology, you can actually interpret it as excitement if you choose to, you know. And I'm not talking about clinical levels of anxiety, obviously, no. but like, you know, the normal emotion of, okay, leaving your sort of guaranteed paycheck for, you know, a life where basically you're the buck stops with you. You know, you're responsible for it all. It's like, okay, I think it's pretty normal to experience some level of anxiety, you know.
Do you notice my body language kind of changing a bit there?
Yeah, I can see your cheeks have got a bit red too.
Kind of like, for those that, you know, maybe are listening audibly as opposed to watching on YouTube, my face kind of went a little funny, and I kind of got a bit, kind of changed my posture a little.
Sitting up
and got
super
a little
straight
bit,
and co-contracting all your trunk muscles.
got a little stiff. Do you know what's weird, Raph, is that just on that, because the first time I took, because dear listeners, this is not the first time I have leaped into the goo. The first time I leaped into the goo would have been, this works, right? I think this analogy really works, yeah? We might have to link to the show notes on what the metamorphosis of a caterpillar to butterfly is for you all to read. But the first time I leaped into the goo would have been, well, one of the first, in regards to Pilates, would have been when I was, so back, when I was a baby Pilates instructor, just started out. So it was near on a decade ago, and I was working full-time in the corporate sphere. And I, not only just in the corporate, I was working for the government. I mean, you don't get a more stable kind of like, you got really good super, best super I've ever been paid. You've got, because it's got this special government thing, all of these things, right? Lots of really stable perks. Yeah. And I left that for, I think maybe I had one permanent Pilates shift, Raph. One. And by shift, I think it was one class. I think I was permanently teaching one class, and I was being paid to assist another class. And I just dived into the goo. And it's weird though. I did not feel, I don't know why. And I don't know if it's just come with maturity. Maybe this is just actual maturity, and now I kind of like know more of a thing about a thing. But I didn't feel like this then. I was just like, yeah, let's go. I've got this, it's fine. I'll get more classes. It doesn't matter. I'll figure out how to pay my rent. Like literally did not care. I was just like, I'm doing it. Whereas this time around, this feels very different. I mean, maybe too, I didn't love my government job like I love working for Breathe. So there's probably that in there too. But it's interesting. Anyway, okay. So yeah, so I've got the feelings, I've got all the feelings. We know that's normal.
Well,
right?
I think it's good. Like, I mean, I own a business. No, no one guarantees my pay except for me. And so I'm familiar with that feeling that you have.
Okay.
You're like, oh yeah, if things aren't working out, it's like, well, yeah, who do you complain to?
Not to you anymore, just to me.
But I think that's good. It propels you to action. When something's not right, you're like, no, I've got to fix this. Like, no one else is going to fix it. I've got to fix it. So I think that's a good thing. But it's just as long as it doesn't, it's just not crippling and doesn't kind of, just decrease your quality of life.
It feels to me, stimulating. It feels really stimulating. It feels exciting. And have you heard, I'm sure apparently I'm like the last person to hear of this, the 5 Ps.
So let me marketing, see if like product, positioning, price, all of that. No,
apparently it's an old army saying. My dad, shout out David, really drummed it into me the other day. Because he's a very practical person, and he's not into that much. He doesn't like to hear the word passion. I think we've spoken about this before because you know me, Raph. I'm like passion to the max 5,000. Like I'm just like
that's interesting to me because David's a psychologist.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, he's not in, and him and I are so like we get on like a house on fire, but we're so different. We probably really complement each other, but I'm like all like, ooh. So he was worried I was going to go, the hubris side of things, right? The just kind of what I did, to be honest, when I jumped out of the government job, where I was just like, oh no, I can do it. I can do what I want.
You landed on your feet though.
I did land on my feet, and I'm hoping to do that again. But the 5 Ps are: prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. And it's so funny because I had a chat to my brother Luke the other day, and he goes, oh, did Dad talk to you about the 5 Ps? I'm like, yep, so good. So I'm like, down with that. So he's all about, be propelled, but also when you're going into, something of change of that magnitude, and you are an adult and you do need to provide for yourself and pay your rent and you look after your dependents, AKA my kittens, you've got to prepare. So plan, write it down, have a plan. How are you going to do it? Refine that plan. Where are you going to start? Where do you start from? And so for someone like me, and I know that a lot of our listeners will be passionate entities like me, we're all like, I think a lot of Pilates instructors are just naturally lean towards being passion. And often becoming a Pilates instructor usually is part of a passion project, isn't it? It's like you're just so passionately in love with Pilates and what Pilates has given you in your life that you want to give that to others. That was 100% me. That is 100% me. I freaking love Pilates. I love what it's given me. I love what it continues to give me and give others. So I think we just naturally are really passionate people. And I think, though, that's also why, Raph, we constantly say, and I'm feeling like this too. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like a little bit Bambi. I'm Bambi again, which, is another analogy. I'm goo with eyeballs. I'm Bambi. I'm the baby horse. I'm the, when you see, what about a giraffe? Have you seen a baby giraffe? Mm. Hilarious. Their legs are just so freaking long and they've got absolutely no idea what to do with them. Mm. That's kind of how, yeah. And I think that's why we feel like that a lot. And you see so many Pilates instructors, both ones that have been in the industry for a while and new ones, feeling a little bit lost in the dark in regards to the 5 Ps, in regards to marketing, business, client, getting clients and then retaining clients. Like, that's how I'd love to chat about that as well, Raph. You got some tips for me? That'd be awesome. Because that's funny that's the thing I'm feeling most. I'm like, am I coming across as a bit desperate at the moment? Because all of a sudden I've gone from really having my identity being that of, I don't want to turn this whole episode into being about me, but maybe this will be helpful for some. Too late, okay. This is a special Chloe episode. Well, I mean, I have had a lot of people reach out to me to say, hey, this is really inspirational and thank you for showing us that we can do that and take that leap. So hopefully this will help inspire and hopefully there'll be some helpful tips along the way, I think
taking leaps is really important to be able to do. And sometimes it's the right thing to stay where you are and keep chipping away at whatever you're doing. But I think for a lot of us, we tend to sort of have some kind of little niggle or sense that it's like it's time to move on, and we often ignore that for a long time before we get to a point where we're like, fuck it, I'm so fucking over this, I've got to get out of here now. And you haven't done that, but I think that's a pretty common human tendency. I've certainly done that at times in my life where I've been like, yeah, I really should have kind of moved on 2 years ago, whether it was from a girlfriend or a job or a whatever, because it's easier to sort of grumble a bit and put up with the status quo than it is to, leap into the unknown.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like, as I was kind of alluding to before, having this sort of, and I'm sure many of our listeners will have felt the same, whether it be that when they left their initial job to go into the realm of teaching Pilates, or then whether they decided to go for teaching for someone else to opening their own studio. You've got this one kind of like, I had this persona, I was the trainer, right? I trained people to be Pilates instructors. And that's really been my identity for the last however many years. And I've truly loved that. And it's been really, I think, that's been represented on my social media. It's represented in how I interact. It's represented in all the mentoring conversations I have with with students, grads, et cetera, et cetera. It's like very much, and it's interesting. It's this, I'm almost a bit uncomfortable and unsure of how to pivot from that while still retain, I love educating, Raph. Like I don't want to get, like, how do I still retain that? And then also though, how do I pivot to this? Now my Instagram has basically become, my online studio. So I've kind of gone from putting out a lot of information to people to now being like, hey, I've got a product. Like, I am now a business. I am a studio. I need to market this. So now in my feed, now in my stories, you're going to see me advertise my classes and ask for you to book in and pay to do my class, right? And it's been interesting. That is at the moment where I'm kind of a bit, So it's a fascinating, it's quite a significant, it feels like quite a significant transition in what's your take on that, Raph? Like, I wonder, do changes like that, it'd be interesting to see if that sees some followers maybe fall off, because now does it melt into, what's your take on that?
I think back, for those of us who watch television, there's a stat that I read recently that something like 13 minutes per hour of ads, when you're watching network television. And so what that suggests is that the television channels have figured out, if they could play 60 minutes of ads per hour, they would, right? But no one would watch the programs, right? So they play as many ads as they can without losing viewers, right?
Right.
So what they found is that 13 minutes per hour of ads is as much as they can play. And if they start playing more of that, they start losing viewers. And so that's the limit, right? And that turns out to be about 22% of an hour, right? So 13 minutes per hour. So about 22%. So let's say 20%, okay, is ads and 80% is program. Right? And that seems to be like the ratio where the television stations have figured out, okay, if we play more ads than that, we really turn people off, okay? Right. But if we play fewer ads than that, we're not maximising our ad revenue, right? So what that suggests to me is that, a 4-to-1 ratio is the right amount of content to ads, right? So I would do, value post, value post, value post, value post, hey, come to my classes, and then just repeat that, Now, that's awesome. Not to say you can't, at the end of each value post, have a little call to action. Hey, want to do some classes? Click them by or whatever. But I think, it's like rough. Let's learn from the television stations.
Yeah, I think that's extremely helpful, Raph. That's freaking cool. Really cool. Okay, wonderful. So what else? What other advice do you have, Raph? As someone that's done many things throughout your career, etc. And, how do you think, what are your tips for those of us that do need to, that are going through the goo and the eyeballs to the butterfly, maybe, creating something totally new, a new offering, and we're feeling that. I feel my cheeks going warm. We're feeling We're feeling the warm cheeks. We're feeling that happening. How do we harness it so that we harness it for good rather than evil?
Well, I would say that the first thing I'd really like to say is that for those people, even a step before that, the people who are kind of suffering in silence or not in silence in their current situation. So whether it's a job that you're not 100% on, or whether you own a studio, a business or whatever that's not performing financially the way you want it to, or whether maybe it is performing financially but you're grinding out 25 sessions a week and you're just like working yourself to the bone and you're not happy about that, like whatever it is about your current situation, if there's something that you're like, oh, darn it, like this isn't, I kind of feel trapped a little bit in this situation that I've kind of created for myself. Like, don't put up with it. Like, you have the power to change that. Do what Chloe did. like make a move.
Make moves.
And so that's the first thing. And I think that you've got to, you've got to make a decision to do something before you really even know what it is that exactly what you're going to do. Right? Because what you'll find, I think, for most of us is that when you do what Chloe did, which is you go, okay, fuck it, I'm going to do this, then you're like, oh shit, now I've got to figure out, what to do, right? And all of a sudden you're highly motivated to solve the problem of how do I make this work, right? Whereas when you're sitting in your secure situation, even though it's not 100% ideal, it's a little bit uncomfortable, there's a bit of a thorn in your butt there somewhere or something, you're like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. Oh, I'll solve that problem, manana. But now all of a sudden shit gets real and you got to fix it like right now. So I think make the decision to do it, and then like I love this metaphor that being in business is like jumping off a cliff and then assembling an airplane on the way down.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And, maybe there are smarter people than me who know how to run a business in a better way. But, that's the way I've experienced it over a long time. So I think that's the number one thing that I would say to probably the majority of people out there who are just kind of like have that little niggle or that little voice or that little sense of disquiet that is like, yeah, it's not quite right the way it is, but it's kind of scary to change it, is like, well, it's not going to change until you change it.
And this is your one life too. Like this is it. And actually it's that whole sense of, Raph, I'm sure you said this. Didn't you say this? You did in our episode. Oh, goodness me. It was the episode about, sometimes I have to close my eyes to think. It was the episode about what studio owners really want, that episode. And you said that, it's real, the good employees, they will want to grow. They will want to go up. They will want to, right? They're not the ones that are just like, yeah, I'm just going to come sit here and do the same job for like.
They're not going to just punch a time clock.
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not you.
I think this is a good place to take a little break, Raph.
Yeah, what a great place to take a break. Well, did you enjoy your break?
I did, and I'm feeling less tingly in the like the stress, like the my cheeks have calmed down. Yeah, nice. This is really cathartic talking this through, Raph. This is awesome. Thank you everyone for sitting here on my therapy session, because I'm this feels extremely self-indulgent, and thank you everyone for letting me have that for one of my final shows as co-host. Yeah. I'll be back though, Raph, right?
You will be back. And we said we'd mention that. And so maybe now would be a good time to mention it.
Yeah, well, I've kind of ruined that surprise, haven't I? If we weren't going to. Yeah, so I'm very lucky. Raph has asked me to come back as a semi-regular guest. So you can tell by the inflection in my voice there that I'm, and if you can see me on YouTube, I'm pretty much beaming at that.
And interestingly, your cheeks have gone a bit red at the same time. So
yeah, I'm really excited because doing Pilates, talk about being the goo in the eyes. Man, the first couple of times when we were recording elephants and kind of finding our way as podcast hosts, and that was all. I was like, what? And then it became something that's so part of what I do. And, it's so weird that we sit here and we record what we're saying and it goes out to thousands of people around the world.
Yeah.
And I never thought in my wildest dreams that would be something that I'd be comfortable with. And it's been such a, and I highly suggest if anyone ever gets the opportunity to, be recorded talking or have a class recorded that you're teaching. These are all things that I in the past would have been crippled by. That, Raph, like I've God, I've grown in leaps and bounds in regards to that. And not only crippled by just from the sense of, oh, what, everyone's going to see me doing that or everyone's going to hear me. It's also, I would have thought, oh gosh, I'm going to ruminate on everything I said. And did I say something really dumb? And how am I going to be perceived? And I tell you what, just do the thing and shake that shit off, because really it's fucking liberating. We can't have one of my final episodes without an F-bomb in there, Raph. That just feels wrong. So it's fucking liberating. I think it has been a game changer for me and my confidence. And you know what? I don't ruminate over what I said now. Like, we record and I'm like, great, we've recorded. Yeah. Excellent.
And I just checked, and we're just about to hit 55,000 downloads.
55,000 downloads.
Yeah. We're at 54,839 at the moment.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, everyone. You bloody legends.
Yeah.
It's truly, it's been, I would say this will, not say this absolutely is a highlight of my career. And I was devastated at the thought of not being part of Elephants and our Elephants community anymore. So I'm thrilled to come back and talk about things. And but I want to encourage everyone that all of this, it's scary and everything, but I tell you what, it's scarier if you never take a leap. Like, I think it's scary if you just, you never sort of, how do you know what your potential is unless you come out of your comfort zone? Your comfort zone is not where your potential is. And Raph, I feel like this is a conversation that you and I have had, and Nick and I have had, is that I was just so in my flow state all the time, which I know most people are like, wow, isn't it great to be in your flow state? It's like pow, pow, pow. And I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful feeling. It's like a dance. You're just in a dance. You're totally not conscious of what you're doing and delivering, but you're doing it at such a high level that you don't need, right? That's how I was feeling about my delivery. And I was like, it's funny that is what then went, oh, wait a second, Chloe. You need to jump off that cliff again. So, yeah.
Most of us, Maslow would say that everybody has an inherent need to grow and achieve self-actualization. Once our basic needs are met, like food, shelter, safety, all of that stuff. I feel the same. Like, I need a challenge. I need to improve. I need to grow. And it's interesting when, when you have that sort of feeling of anxiety, like, oh shit, things could go really wrong here if I don't navigate this correctly. Often for me anyway, I think for most of us, that can propel you into finding solutions and coming up with creative ideas that you wouldn't otherwise entertain, because you kind of, when you're in a kind of a safety mindset, you don't necessarily entertain those out there ideas, or you think like, oh yeah, that's an idea for some hypothetical future time. Whereas like now you're like, oh shit, if I don't do some shit that really gets me some traction here, I've got a problem. Yeah.
Yes.
So you start thinking creatively, and you implement stuff, and you see what works and what doesn't, and you adjust.
And I've found it really helpful to have such an awesome network of people that are doing different things, in their career, to ask their advice, to bounce ideas off, and ask for feedback. And that's really cool as well. So I highly suggest you doing that. You and Jenna, I was thinking, oh gosh, that blueprint sounds good. You and Jenna, can you tell us a bit about that again? Because I feel it's been a while since we've talked about that.
I will tell you about that. I will tell you about that in a sec. But first, I just want to answer your question from before of like, what should you do from before the break? Now, and I think we kind of talked about like, okay, 4 value posts for one.
Glad you looped back.
Come buy my stuff. Mm-hmm. But the biggest advice I would give you is look at other people who are successfully doing what you want to do, right? And it might not be in Pilates. They might be selling advertising or, selling whatever, right? Makeup or whatever online. But look at people who've got an Instagram-based business like you're building, okay? They've got, as many or more followers than you. Don't look at people that have got like 1 million followers because they're playing in a different league. Look at people who've got like, what have you got, 15,000, 20,000, something like that?
17.7, thank you, Raph.
17.7, okay. So look at people who've got, in that, 20 to 50,000 follower.
Yeah,
they're kind of like the next step ahead of where you want to go, but not like 5 miles ahead of where you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And look at people who sell stuff on Instagram for their day job, right? That's like they sell services or they sell products. It's like, I'm not talking about people who are like professional, like people who are like sponsored. So it's like, oh, I do workouts and then, hey, come and buy this nutrition stuff that my sponsor recommends, right? Not that person, because that's not your business. Your business is you sell services, right? You sell Pilates classes online. So look at somebody else who sells services. Maybe they sell copywriting, or maybe they sell marketing, or maybe they sell, whatever, right? But they sell their own stuff, okay? Yeah. And they've got, 20 to 50,000 followers. Follow them, find a few that you resonate with, that, their messaging and their vibe and all of that, and just look at, okay, what sorts of things are they posting? How often are they posting? What language are they using? How often are they posting about, like, come buy my stuff? What does their link in bio look like? Just basically, you don't have to make it up from scratch. Just copy what these people, reverse engineer what they're doing.
I love that all the listeners now are probably quickly jumping onto my Instagram, because this will be in the future. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, right,
there'll be like flying cars and rocket packs.
I will have totally, I will have totally rejigged my Insta, my marketing strategy, and this will be cool. You'll be able to jump on and go, did she implement what Raph was talking about there? I love that. That's awesome. That's fantastic, Raph. I have noticed that I'm doing that in regards to, because I need to kind of clean up. Like Kat Webb actually gave me this great. She's like, Chloe, you got to sort out basically what your style guide's going to be. So, she's getting me onto Canva, and she's like, you got to, et cetera, and come up with some sort of style that's going to replicate across website, et cetera. When I do put up a little ad or a post on my Instagram that is actually an ad, like a class, there needs to be consistency. So I think that's fantastic advice, and I've obviously just been totally lax with that, but I've also not been actively trying to fill an online studio. Basically, it's been very much a side gig, and now it's like, no, I need to fill my studio. I want my clients. I want you to come and hang out with me and, move with me. And
I'm not an Instagram expert, but I follow quite a few Instagram experts, and I do know a little bit about marketing. And I would say, like, I agree with Kat that style is important, and it's important to, for things to look nice, probably particularly in the Pilates world, but substance trumps style, right? So people are going to follow you for, if you put out a large volume of high quality posts with daggy fonts, people will follow you more than if you put a low volume of poor quality posts with beautiful fonts.
Yeah, look, I would agree with that. And I love what you're saying there, Raph, because I am not naturally one. I think Kat is a very naturally stylish person.
She's super stylish.
She's got an incredible aesthetic, that her eye for, how everything looks and on the grid. Whereas for me, that stuff is more of a choky thing for me. It's like it's the thing I'd probably take ages to overthink and then do it and then implement it. And by that stage, it's like, oh shit, that class was a couple of days ago that I needed to promote.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate what you're saying there.
Yeah. Don't let perfect be the enemy of done. And it's better to put it out there, and it's the quality of the information that is the most important thing, and the authenticity of the communication. And then style is nice to have, but it's not more important than either of those things. And there's probably a middle ground, right? It doesn't have to be either or. You can probably just buy a template pack somewhere that's like, Instagram post templates, and you can choose from 101 different color combos. You choose the one you like, and bada bing, bada boom. You don't have to, make it
Raphael
up from
Bender, what a
scratch.
fantastic. Once we get off this podcast recording, I will be Googling that because I think that's a fantastic idea. That
Actually,
would suit me
go
down
to Chris Doe at The Future, Futur. He has a Instagram template pack that comes as what's the keynote? The Apple Mac sort of version of PowerPoint comes as a keynote file.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's his name? Chris
Doe, D-O.
D-O. Chris Doe.
He's one of my favourite people that you should follow on Instagram because he's awesome. Another one is Ivy Malik. I think that's her name, Ivy Malik. And I also like Shan. What Shan wrote, S-H-A-N. She has this great, anyway, she's awesome. I'll link to them in the show notes.
This is fantastic, Raph. Thank you. That's wonderful. Hey, you were going to talk about the Pilates Blueprint.
Yeah, well, I don't want this to become an ad for the Pilates Blueprint, so I'm going to keep it brief. But yeah, Jenna Zaffino and I are putting together a program, a business kind of coaching program for Pilates people who are either starting a business or want to evolve their current business. And it's going to be a 12-week program that is based around a project that you define for your own business. So it's like, okay, I want to achieve X in my business in the next 12 weeks, and we'll sort of work with you to choose a goal that's achievable but a stretch, and then we'll basically coach you through the process of, you do all the work though.
Right, but you're our coach.
Yeah, and so there's some education component of it that is like, okay, here's some stuff about marketing, here's how to do sales, here's how to choose your prices, here's how to blah, 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 all of those kind of technical things. But the main guts of it is like, okay, what do you want to achieve? What's your ideal business? Wave a magic wand, what would it be like? How much would you make? How often would you teach? Who would you work with? What would that look like? What sort of work would you do with those people? What results would they achieve, etc. And then it's all right. Well, what's the first and most significant step you can take towards that? Starting from where you're at right now. What's the thing that is going to move the dial the furthest towards that in 12 weeks, And we won't get you necessarily from zero to your dream business in 12 weeks, right? But it might be like, okay, step number one is to raise your prices, or step number one is to, whatever, have a pricing strategy, or step number one is to, get 50% more clients, or whatever it is.
It's so, it sounds freaking cool, Raph. And I've got to say, like, my brain, I'm enjoying all the brain activity actually at the moment. Like it's like, oh yeah, spark. Yeah, cool. Oh, I could do this, I could do that. I love that all of this is making me so much more interested in business. I don't think I was anywhere near as interested in business before. Now I'm like, I want to learn everything about business.
And isn't it amazing how it's so much more interesting when it's personally relevant?
Like so much more interesting. I'm like, this is an interesting topic. Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in it. This is really cool.
Because it's like a fun topic, but when you get the answers right to the test, you get more money and more clients. So it's
been interesting, Raph, when you're talking about, pricing or this or that. The thing that I thought naively, I thought that pricing might have been more of a blocker for people. But what I'm actually finding is people don't question, like, the pricing, a discussion around pricing and someone not being happy with the price or this or that hasn't come up whatsoever. The bigger blocker seems to be, for me, what I'm trying to work out is the times, like when I'm actually offering these classes. And because I've got a large, at the moment, I would say the majority, I don't even have to, like, it's the majority of my clients are instructors, right? Because that has been my market for so many years, and that is my community. So then it's like with instructors, it's like how to find class times for them that will work around their teaching schedule. But then also it's been really interesting because I think I've done quite a good job of building that and marketing to instructors. But now I'm like, okay, for me to fill a studio schedule, right, of teaching and this being my full-time gig, I also need the general public to feel welcome and ushered in as well. And for me, it's been quite interesting to work out how to market to both and keep it strong. Does that make sense?
Well, I would say I would question that.
Would you? In what way?
I happen to know that there's at least 100,000 Pilates instructors in the US, and there's probably 30,000 at least in Australia. So I'm not sure why you think that you need to, that's not enough people to fill your classes.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. Self-limiting beliefs there, Raph.
How many people in your reformer class on a Sunday?
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I love this. And again, as I said, like the listeners will be listening to this into the future. And if you're listening and you've got any tips for me, please feel free to, jump into my DMs. I'm like so just here to chat with everyone about this and absorb as much as I can. And please come and take one of my classes as well. Am I allowed to turn this into an ad? Come and take a class. So yeah, it's all very exciting. I've really enjoyed this chat.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, how cool. Thanks for indulging me, Raph.
No, it's been enjoyable for me as well. I've enjoyed our conversation like I always do.
So there'll be one or two more as co-host, and then you will hear my dulcet tones and laugh
every few weeks.
Yeah, and I'm that it'll be an absolute highlight. I just can't wait. So
me too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chloe.